tough one.
In that case, okay, my other stab in the dark is somewhere around Kennington, the Elephant Castle, something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, you're right.
Wow.
It's Kennington Park Road.
I was just about to say, okay then, so is it very close to the station, Kennington Station?
Yes, exactly. It's exactly across from the station.
That's good. That's really good, Rich.
There's a group of flats and some shops just across the road from the station. There you go, I'm a genius.
You are a genius. Amazing. Rich, thank you. I appreciate it.
At least I haven't let you down.
No, you absolutely haven't. Thank you very much. I'll see you for my lift home later, yeah? Cheers, stuff.
Bye-bye.
Very handy.
That's really cool. I mean, even knowing the science behind it, like, I shouldn't be surprised, but to see it happen in real life, the actual human trick of it all is just really makes me feel proud of our species.
I think this is the thing. If you haven't spent a lot of time in London and aren't familiar with the city, I think that you wouldn't necessarily appreciate just how phenomenally impressive that is. I mean, this city is vast, and we're picking streets completely at random with no discernible characteristics on them. There's no sort of shop signs, no awnings with names on, just like a random building somewhere random in London, and he's getting it pretty much spot on straight away.
Yeah. If you've never been there before, you might think, oh well, it must be that each street has a very unique style of building, but it's much subtler than that. What he's able to do.
Yeah, well, there you go. Incredible what the human mind can do.
We've been talking about how the human brain orients itself in space, and we've talked about place cells and grid cells and liquid in the ear. We've talked about landmarks in the eyes, but language also plays a role in how we understand three-dimensional space. So in 2011, a team from the Max Planck Institute of Psycholinguistics decided to compare two groups of children, okay? One group was from a tribe in Namibia, and the other was just some Dutch children, okay? Just some Dutch children, yeah. To researchers, they're a dime a dozen. But what they did is they compared these two groups of children. Why? Because their languages were very different, okay? The children from the Netherlands, their language involved words like left, right, in front of, and behind, these relative terms, right? Left is different if I'm facing this way or if I'm facing this way. My left is different than your left. They're relative to me. But in the language spoken by these Namibian children, there were no relative directions. Everything was absolute. They only had words for north, south, east, west. And it's not always the cardinal directions. Other tribes have languages that are absolute in direction that might be in reference to, say, a landmark. Like, is that mountain, in front or behind the thing? Something like that. Anyway, in the experiment, they set up a table that, say, ran east-west, like a long table, and they lined up toys on this in a particular order, and they had the kids remember the order. And then they moved the table 90 degrees, and they asked the children to arrange the animals again in the same order they'd seen previously. And the Dutch children did it the way I think many of you listening would do it. They arranged them left to right in the same way. But the children from Namibia arranged them according to the cardinal directions. So instead of having everything go to the left, to the left, to the left, they said, well, no, the toys are now going to have to go the other way on the table because they used to all be facing south, and so I will keep them facing south because that's the way they conceived of space and objects in it.
That is so fascinating. So you end up with all these toys squished along the short run of the table.
Exactly. To the Dutch children, what mattered was who was to the left and the right of a target toy, but to the Namibian children, what mattered was which way the animals had been facing the entire time. So instead of being left to right but now facing, say, west, they were all still facing south, and they didn't even fit on the table. So what mattered was, what was relevant was the cardinal absolute directions.
So, okay, right, two things. First off, I do wonder if you had a spider on your leg, right? You're like, because you sort of say I don't know, to a Dutch child, you'd be like, there's a spider on your left leg, and you sort of brush it off and it's fine. But if you're with Namibian children, you'd be like, it's on your northwest leg. No, don't turn around. Now it's your southeast leg.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's like a superpower. It sounds that way to us because we are just, we don't, I mean, especially with GPS, I really don't need to know which way north is. I can just get as lost as I want, and then my phone will tell me where to go. Now, it is, however, true that if you take a person who has an absolute direction language only and you spin them around and make them dizzy, they do lose track of which way north is, just like we do. Whereas if you spun me around, I would not forget which way left was.
No, true. But you would never know which way north was.
But I never knew which way north was. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that really demonstrates that it's a cognitive effort then, that they're keeping track from the last time they knew what north was, rather than it's not a magical trick. It is something that's a sort of a decision, as it were. Something that is a direct consequence of the language. It's nice. It's a really nice study.
Just as we've learned from studies on place cells and grid cells, it is about memory. They remember and they keep even a non-conscious memory of how they have moved and what that would mean for the direction of north. Whereas those of us whose culture does not pay attention to cardinal directions in the same way, we don't have to.
I do wonder though, okay, so that's sort of where things are in relation to each other. I also wonder about, we were talking about proprioception a bit before the break, but I also wonder about the map that you have of your own body. Because presumably you're not born with that, right?
So how we orient ourselves in space is very culturally dependent. But what isn't is where we put ourselves in our bodies. Going back to the experiment we did at the very beginning of this podcast, point to yourself. Where are you pointing? There's generally only two places people point, regardless of their culture, their age, their gender, their life experiences. They point either to the head or to the chest.
I wonder what the ratio was in our comments. I wonder.
We'll do a little study. Yeah.
I can barely imagine saying point to yourself. It sort of doesn't feel right to me to point to your head.
Yeah, point to yourself. And I want to talk about this. And I don't have a big whiz-bang insight to give because a lot of this is research that I did years ago for an episode about, like, where is your seat of consciousness? Or where do you think it is? Where does it feel like it is? And I didn't know enough about consciousness to find an answer, so I never made the episode. But I wanted to share some of the cool things I found on this journey. And one of these days it'll make it into an episode. So as it turns out, like, where people point when you ask them to point to themselves depends almost entirely on context. So, for example, there was a great study that was done. I love the experimental design here. They had people go into a room where there was a pole from the floor to the ceiling, and it had this arrow on it, and you could move the arrow up and down. And they told people to just move the arrow until it pointed at them. And as it turns out, if they walk into the room and the arrow is down on the ground at the bottom of the pole, they'll pull it up until it reaches their chest and they'll stop and they'll say, there, I did it. But if you begin with the arrow near the top of the pole when they enter the room, they'll only pull it down to their face.
So it's like anchoring, but for arrows and where you are.
Yes, where you think you are in your body is very much dependent on how it's been anchored, right? They could also have a person go in with a blindfold on. And if you have a blindfold on, you're a little bit more likely to have it point at your chest than at your face. If you have a blindfold off, you are much more likely to point it at your eyes, at your face. But this question of where you are in your body has a very specific target in psychology. It's called the ego center. And the ego center is the name for where I believe the very middle, the center of myself is. And you can ask people this and they all understand it, right? They all understand, like, oh yeah, sure, like my life is basically a POV video game. Where am I seeing the world from? So the eyes become this really dominant sense for determining where we think that we are. And interestingly, all the sensory poles influence it. Because if you give someone like a map of the body and you tell them to pinpoint exactly where they think they are, it's almost always a place right in between the eyes, just a little bit back, just a few inches back. Or maybe even like just like a centimeter behind the eyes in between.
Like your conscious center sits just behind your eyes.
That's right. Like if you're some kind of little rat like driving your body around, we think that we are that rat sitting right behind the eyes. But people who have been blind since birth place their ego center in between the eyes, but much further back, almost in the middle of the head, right in between the ears. Because sight hasn't dominated and put in its influence on, no, you're right here, you're up here where you see things.
What about deaf people? Because I sort of wonder, I mean, there's a lot for people who have, full hearing, full vision. There's a lot going on in your head, right? But I can imagine that for people who are deaf and who use sign language, like their communication center is their hands, right? Does that end up changing things?
If the person is just deaf, no, it doesn't seem to. We'll link studies below, but the eyes are just so rich with information that they position themselves near the eyes. Now, in the congenitally deaf and blind, there's very little information because a person with those conditions is often, it's just hard to even ask them, like, where is yourself? But there are a lot of, just from like anecdotal reading online, there's a lot of discussion of tactile thoughts, dreams being tactile. And what I haven't been able to find is any real confirmation that a deaf and blind person from birth pictures themselves, say, in their fingers or in their lips or somewhere where there's a lot of touch information coming in. I think that even without vision and hearing, we still have other things that make our head a focus, like the
Hell yeah. Go.
Oh, give me a break.
up.
Probably not gonna help.
Help me up. Help me the fuck up. Holy shot.
Why next time? Oh, great.
Don't mind if I do.
What the hell? Love that sound. Hostile. Do this. You've got nowhere to go. Throwing shot. Soft. Shit, incoming frag.
breathing and taste. It all comes in through stuff up here. And it also can move around a lot. Our limbs can also move around a lot, but the trunk, the torso is hypothesized to be an extremely universal anchor point for where we say we are. Because it doesn't move independently. I can't move my torso without also moving my arms. My legs and arms and my head can be in weird positions, but my body is always that central point, which also probably explains why so many of us point to the chest for the self. And of course, there's also the fact that when you feel things deeply, you often feel it in your gut and in your heart. Your heart speaks it. And this isn't just about emotions. It's also about, like, what did ancient people think? Aristotle believed that all of our memories and our thoughts were happening in the heart.
Well, because they thought the brain was there to sort of cool down the body, right? Cool down the blood.
That's right. They thought that the brain's only purpose was to cool down the blood. The heart was clearly more important because when you looked inside a human body, you saw all of these veins and arteries that went everywhere. Clearly, those were the marionette strings that the heart pulled to make us move. It was clearly the seat of consciousness, and this is where we are. So where you think you are in your body isn't just about your sensory holes. It's also about your culture and what you know.
So I also wonder, though, then, that just tracing that backwards, I wonder whether you would get less people saying, I am here. You know, sort of the seat of my ego is right in where my brain is. If you rewound the clock and asked the ancient Greeks, would they have all said in the chest?
Yeah. Yeah, and the ancient Egyptians as well. And so at some point there was a change where we switched from the heart is where my thinking happens to the brain is where my thinking happens. And I mean, a lot of this is, I don't have a point that I've reached with this research, but I've looked a lot into the feeling of mental exhaustion. Like if you're thinking a lot, doesn't it kind of feel like your head is tired? So why didn't ancient people say, man, when I think a lot, my head is tired? Because we don't have nerves in our brain, actually. Generally, if you've been doing a lot of cognitive work, your head area will feel tired because you've been using your eyes a lot. And you haven't been using the other parts of your body a lot. But to me, it's still a bit of a mystery why the brain was so unimportant when it came to the location of the self in the body to the ancients.
I do sort of wonder, though, because as you said, you don't have nerve endings in your brain. I mean, this is the reason why you can have people who have brain surgery while they're still awake, right? I sort of wonder whether you feel like your brain is tired because we now know that is where everything is happening. How much it's really difficult to disentangle one from the other. One thing I did think that was really interesting that you said there is that it's interesting how, as you said, the eye is this like real magnetic center where so much information comes in from them that it's almost impossible not to imagine that your consciousness is centered near them. But then at the same time, it's interesting how you said that people put their ego center between the eyes where there isn't an eye, you know?
That's right, yes. Okay, so yes, this reminds me, I think I've told you this before, but I want everyone to hear about the Cyclops effect. If you ask a child who is like, I don't know, 2 years old, like young enough to look through a cardboard tube or to look inside a tube, here's like a tube, okay? They will put the tube right in between their eyes and they won't be able to look inside of it. And that's because, of course, our brain takes both of the images from both of our eyes and combines them into one image right in between the eyes. And as an adult, we learn that, like, yes, that's how it feels, but I have two eyes. And so around the age of like 3 and a half, kids start to, when asked to look inside a tube, they put it up to just one eye. They tend to keep both eyes open, though. Adorable little Cyclops. It's really adorable, and this is honestly another reason I haven't done a video on this is that I lost that window with my daughter. I needed to do the experiment with her to get good footage of it happening, and now she's too old. She knows that she has two eyes, and she doesn't just, like, vision isn't just coming out of the middle between them. And there's one video on YouTube where a parent asks their kids, and the kids do it. They stick the thing right in between their eyes and get confused about why they can't see inside of it. But I can't use that footage because it's like someone else's children. But it's a phenomenal illustration of this effect. We call it the Cyclops effect.
It sort of feels like this is the perfect opportunity. If you happen to know or live with a small person under the age of 3, see if you can get a video of them doing Cyclops effect and send it in to us.
Yes, please. And of course, won't use anything without a lot of discussion. But it's just hilarious to see it happen. And there's just literally one video on YouTube, and it's so funny, but also really deep about how we understand our bodies, that it takes a while to learn that you have 2 eyes.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. You just said now you're an adult, you know that you have 2 eyes. But the thing is that I think that you know it intellectually, but I think your body actually often defaults to thinking that you have 1 eye. So the really nice way to do this is if you get a little roll of paper and you hold it up to, say, your right eye, and then you hold your left hand up right next to it and keep both of your eyes open. What will happen very quickly, I mean, initially your brain's like, what's going on? But very quickly, it then looks like you've got a hole in your hand. Right? Like, your brain is essentially combining those 2 images as though you have 1 eye. And I think what's really nice about this is that actually when you're walking around, the reason why your brain's doing this is because you need 1 eye for walking effectively. You know, your little 2-year-old child who's a cute little cyclops, they are biologically perfect walkers. Mm-hmm. We only switch to 1 eye when we're using tools.
Yeah.
When you're being much more precise and specific, that you know, the distance between your eyes starts to matter. So, you know, these little babies, they're great at walking, terrible hunters, terrible at using tools.
And not to go on about this forever, but if you want to ruin the effect of the hole in the hand, put a photograph of a person's face on your hand. Because the brain privileges faces when it comes to combining 2 different images from each eye. And there's actually another name for this, which is the Cheshire Cat effect, where the face is so important that it stays on top. And it might fade a little bit, but the eyes and the mouth will always be there. The brain doesn't combine them with what the other eye is getting.
I didn't know that. Every day with you, Michael. Every day's a school day.
So the last thing I wanted to say is that I've been trying to tease out the contexts that affect why sometimes we point to the face or we think of the face as the self and why sometimes we don't. For example, if someone said, oh, hey, Michael, can I get a picture of you? If I gave them a photo of my knee, they would be very confused. If I gave them a picture of my entire body from the neck down, they would say, I'm sorry, this is not what we wanted. And I'd be like, what do you mean? That's 90% of my body's surface area. Like, that's me. They'd be like, no, we just wanted your face. And I'm like, but my face is such a small part of my body. How can that be me? At the same time, though, when we're talking with each other, we won't just reference the face with gestures to refer to ourselves. Like if I said something like, and you know what? She took my car. I point to the chest. It would be very weird to say, she took my car. If I pointed to my face, I'm pointing to my eyes right now. Even though in the visual world of photographs, my face is me. In the world of discourse and talking, I am my chest. And I'm not exactly sure why that all is. The best explanation for the chest gesture for myself, for me, comes from Kinsey Cooperrider, who said that when you're talking, any gesture you make moves the person's eye, unless it's like a very general gesture. So if I say my book, I'll point to my chest because it doesn't distract you enough as if I pointed to my shin. You'd be like, oh, why is he pointing to his shin? And you'd have to move your head. But if I point to my chest, or I could just put my hand on my chest, I'm emphasizing the word mine without distracting your eye. If I pointed to my head and I said my book, you'd be like, oh, why is he pointing to his temple or his cheek? And it would distract. But the chest is a vague enough but not far enough away place that it just emphasizes the word. Anyway, it's very mysterious.
It is very mysterious. This is why I like it so much. I like to think that part of this is potentially cultural, and maybe today, Michael, we can make a shift. Maybe we can make it so that everybody from now on, whenever they say something, they go, "What about me?" and just directly points to the end of the note.
Yeah. So I want to throw in one more thing that I've been researching, and that's where we knock on doors. When you go up to a door and you need to knock on it, we usually knock like about here at the height of like the shoulder or the eye, somewhere in between there. Even though our hand, hangs down at our waist or something. Why is that? Is that a cross-culturally true thing? Because you could come up to a door and knock at the bottom of the door. But we don't do that. We knock about where our voice would be coming out if we were to be talking to the person. We knock kind of where we might be looking if we were looking at the person. Is that what motivates all of us to knock on doors where we do, rather than like I could knock at it down at my waist or right where my hand happened to be? But no, we like put our hand up and we knock where our mouth would be? Maybe.
I mean, there's a bit of me that wonders whether it's just because it's sort of the physics of the angles of your elbow, that it's like it's slightly easier.
Sure. Maybe it's just easier to control the power and the volume of your knock in that position.
But it does feel like at your kind of communication center. It's sort of it does come back to everything that you're describing, that you've got. It's almost like your center of mass, but it's like the center of me.
Right.
Right?
The ego center. Exactly. So the point is, this is a lot of kind of funny stuff where there aren't a lot of clear answers, and yet I feel like we know less about where the self resides in the body than we do how we understand where our bodies are in space.
Which is something that happens quite a lot. I mean, if you think about, we have explored the galaxy, the solar system, and yet still the Mariana Trench is a rare anomaly in our understanding of the ocean floor.
I know, we know more about the surface of the moon or of Neptune than we do the ocean floor. So I call this the proximity paradox. It seems like the closer something is, the harder it is to really look at it and understand it.
And so when it comes to the question of where are you, finding where you are on the Earth, easy peasy. Finding where you are in a room, bit harder. Finding where you are in your body, genuine mystery.
Is that even a sensible question?
And this is what I like about this program, right? You do a program on where are you. You're not going to get this kind of stuff on other science podcasts, are you?
No, you're going to leave. You're not going to leave going, oh, that's where I am. You're going to leave going, what does where mean and who am I?
I no longer understand any of the things that I thought I could take for granted. Well, okay, that I think is a good point to leave it for this episode. Make sure that you are following The Rest of Science wherever you get or listen to your podcast, or you can like and subscribe on YouTube if you would like to watch us.
And if you'd like to ask us any questions, which we might just answer on a Field Notes episode in the future, you can send that question to therestiscience@goalhanger.com.
See you next time.
Kind of having to do some introspective, really look at yourself. And boy, that guy was right. I mean, now I read that article, I'm like, yeah, definitely narcissist, definitely trying to prove something, definitely thinks he's smarter than everybody else, definitely arrogant. I'm going through and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he stopped just shy of saying scumbag, and I'll push the envelope and say, scumbag. He could have added scumbag.
All right. Matthew, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Tampa, Florida.
And tell me about your family. You had both your parents when you were a kid?
Yes, I had, my mom and my dad.
Good childhood?
I had a learning disability, So basically, I had two brothers. I had two sisters, one brother. My mother wasn't supposed to be able to have children. When she was 40 years old, she went in for a hysterectomy and found out she was pregnant. And actually, then I was born. But I had a learning disability, which I struggled with. And so as a result, my father was an alcoholic, and I don't think I really measured up to what he wanted in a son. I know my brother didn't, so there's just a lot of disappointment, a lot of what you would call I don't say mental abuse. You know, I hate to complain about it because I've met guys that have serious abuse. You know, being basically beaten and tortured or sexually abused. So I hate to